stacking cash, learning the game. No more fear, no more shame. It's not just money, it's how you live. A future for the ones you give. Success is calling, don't ignore. Take control, unlock the door. Dreams ain't distant, they're right in sight. Sam will help you get it right. He's got the roadmap, got the plan. Helping you take a stand, financial peace, a future bright. Sam Knickerbocker shows the light. Call 385-323-2493. Change your life.
Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy show. And today we have another incredible guest, somebody that I met at a conference I was speaking at and really enjoyed our conversation. And when I go speak at conferences or when I go to conferences and I find somebody that I really want to have a conversation with, I kind of avoid them, honestly, throughout the event because I don't want to know too much about them before I have a podcast because I love the idea of getting to know somebody and recording the conversation. And Erik seems to be very similar. I asked him if he listened to any of my previous shows and he said, no, I just want it to be raw. So both of us have a similar personality in that regard, which is awesome. I'm super grateful for you hopping on, taking the time. I know it's been a minute to get this scheduled because we're both very busy. But Erik's up in, well, I don't know where he is today, but he lives up in Idaho, but he travels around a ton, which has kind of led to it being so long from when we first met. But go ahead, Erik, tell us a bit of your backstory as far as like, how did you get to where you are right now in business?
Ooh, there's a lot there. That's a long, windy road. You guys can probably see you got the gray hair coming on, man. It's like you get enough scars and enough seat time, you start to make enough mistakes. It's kind of how you get to a point of either failure or success. And in success, I think it varies, but kind of how I got to, where I'm at, I think I'm getting a little glare here, so I'll back up, is I originally started I grew up in a really small town, very, very small. I think we didn't have a stoplight in the whole county until I went to high school. And then we got like a Subway that was part of like a Hart's gas station. And we thought that was like the coolest thing ever. But we never had any kind of fast food, never had any kind of like just conventional, I think, modernity when I was growing up. I was born in 84. So I'm 41 now. And we just never really had, I think, a lot of those creature comforts that some people in urban areas are accustomed to. And so subsequently, we got into a lot of trouble. I think the teenage pregnancy rates for our county and the neighboring county were the highest in the state, like on blast every year. Because, if you got a bowling alley, no fast food, well, stuff's going to happen. And so we were always lighting fires, cow tipping, we did it. I kind of grew up trapping, so I really liked trapping. And I would go talk to farmers or ranchers and find out if they'd give us a lease or let us in there and cut or cull a couple beaver. And then my mom, she sewed fur coats for quilts. And so it was a very unique upbringing.
What type of trapping did you do? You mentioned beaver.
Oh, just anything. My favorite thing to trap's a coyote, actually, because they're like one of the harder ones to deceive. Bobcats are just very visual. Some animals are very just like throughputs. You can catch them with a snare or a conibear. But I really like to get a foothold on a coyote. They're wily for a reason. They use all their senses. And I've always just kind of really, this is weird, but I've always kind of likened myself to a coyote. So they're very opportunistic. They don't care. They don't make pretense. They literally will just go. Whatever's an opportunity the day of, they're always hungry and they're always on the hunt. And they'll take small meals and they'll take large meals. And they're always active. And I've always loved studying kind of wildlife in that way and kind of, making and drawing some parallels. But a coyote in particular is my
So what's the process of trapping a coyote?
Ooh, good process. So the first thing is they use their scent. And so you'll have a long call, which will basically just be like a really long, potent smell that will carry downwind. It's going to be like skunk urine, maybe glands out of a certain animal, maybe just a yeasty, gross thing that you'll cast downwind. Then you'll have a short call, which will smell like more like, urine. It'll have different types of things. And so it'll be a unique smell for the coyote. That's normally what calls them into the area. Then they're going to start keying in, and coyotes are kind of looking and they're on the hunt and they're maybe going to be, oh, like, what's that? And then they'll kind of cue in and look at something. So then we'll have like a visual draw. And that's normally we would take like a piece of a bone, or sometimes coyotes, they'll defecate in the middle of a road, just to kind of mark territory. And so we'll take those old turds and then put them in there. Right. And then that will be a visual cue. So they got the long smell, they get in closer, they can smell it even then, it kind of hones them in. And then they've got that visual that they will then kind of cue in, and then that's where you kind of put the set. And your whole goal is to get them to linger around and kind of investigate it, and then you'll use a foothold trap to catch
like a claw trap.
Yep, foothold trap, spring loaded. There's different variants, but you have like 3 types of traps. Anyways, we can get into trapping. I loved it when I was a kid. So when I was trapping, I learned a lot about attention to detail. I learned a lot about patience. I learned a ton about just respect for nature. Never really enjoyed dispatching animals, but I never really saw the suffering of other animals as an equal trade. And
what's the dispatching of animals?
You're going to kill an animal. So like that coyote's there, he's caught in a trap, you got to dispatch him. So there's ways that you can, kill a coyote. And I never really felt comfortable with it. I still don't really like killing animals, but I also have seen kind of how brutal nature is, and like they will just kill a calf, or I've seen them kill cows where for example, a cow can be in breech, she's trying to give birth to this new calf, and coyotes are opportunists, so they'll go up and they'll just pull this thing out pieces at a time while she's trying to give birth. And then they're just brutal. They're brutal. And I don't blame them, but they really do cause a lot of havoc in a rural community when you're talking agrarian type of people. So I really loved it. We would use the fur, we'd use the stuff, we'd help out the local rancher, help out the local community. It was a really good experience. And so that's kind of how I loved to spend my childhood, was out in the woods, hunting, trapping. I don't really care for fishing that much. It's enjoyable, but it's not like my cup of tea. And I really kind of grew up very rural. So it was enjoyable. Now, then I went on a 2-year ecclesiastical service mission for the LDS Church. I served in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And for me, I had a very unique experience on my mission. I really didn't baptize but one guy in Brazil, which was just unheard of. They're dunking people left and right in Brazil, and it's just like nonstop. They're baptizing everybody. For me, though, I had a kind of different thing. Like, I was helping just people kick drug addiction. I had a lot of that in my family. My half siblings are still suffering with it, and I've never had any kind of substance in my body for that reason. I've never had coffee. I've never had a sip of alcohol. I want to smoke weed. I never will, because I know it'll probably ruin me. Cocaine's a hell of a drug, but I'll never do it. So for me, I've always steered clear of substances because I've seen how much it's been a detriment in my genetic disposition and with my half siblings. And so on my mission, I really just helped people understand and get tools to kick drugs. Like almost my whole mission in Brazil was people that were addicted to cocaine or fell into heroin. Like, they have a lot of crack in Brazil, a lot of just life ruining drugs that people can't use with discretion. And so, that was like what I spent 2 years doing. I thought I'd be out there, seeing monkeys in Brazil and with a machete and, living in the jungle. And it was like, I was in Sao Paulo, there's 30 million people, and I don't think I saw a tree. It was like nothing but concrete jungle and buses, and it was very different. And a lot of the people that I kind of rubbed shoulders with just happened to have substance abuse issues. So it was like everyone that was kind of coming into my path, I was just trying to help them curb their problems.
That's so fascinating. Yeah, my mission was not like that, but also I served in Scotland and Ireland, and it's its own. I mean, there's definitely a lot of drug use. It's so I don't know if this is the same in Brazil, but over there they have like state-sponsored heroin. So they called them pharmacies, but everybody would go down to the pharmacy, and there'd be this line where they'd give you like a cup full of methadone, which is basically just heroin, and they just like take the shot right in front of me of this drug. And every morning you'd see this line of just junkies just out there in line to get their daily dose of, and it's just like, and it's like right in the center of just like the project type, Section 8 housing type developments, and just like this pharmacy right in the center where every day they just go and get their daily drugs. I'm like, this is like an open air prison. It's insane. It's just and
it's sad because you see, I'm very libertarian in this way. Like I have very mixed views on drugs. It's either it needs to all be legal and liberally used, which can't happen in my mind because of the way that pharmaceutical companies have kind of got their greedy little, hands into that system, or it needs to be all illegal. And that's like a hard thing for some people to think. But I believe like societally, we have a responsibility to each other to like give the best version of our country that we can, and our society and our communities and our playgrounds. And because we have this notion of, well, it only affects me, it's fine because it's only hurting me, we're slowly eroding. We're kind of poking holes in the Swiss cheese or in the fabric of what makes our communities. And so it's slowly eroding what it means to be that. And again, it's just transformative. I don't know that it's an erosion that's it's not an erosion that I'm giving a judgment on. I'm just saying that, like, as a parent now, or somebody that wants to let their kids go play at like public playgrounds, I have to be more cautious.
Sure.
When before, like, the social and the cultural fabric that kind of made up what it was to live in America and certain parts and communities in America, you didn't have that. So when you see the end of this, it's very Europe. They're so liberal and they're so progressive and forward thinking. The end is that you have state sponsored methadone clinics where people are showing up for their daily rations. Like, is that really the kind of culture that we want? Now, the flip side of that is, do we want an authoritarian or a totalitarian culture where people are just like telling us what we can and can't ingest in our body? Like,
Which is essentially the same thing, though, right?
I don't like
It's
that
like
either.
one is,
Yeah, correct.
I
I
was
don't
doing
want the
training for my
government.
team. I was doing training for my team this morning, and you're in sales, so you understand this, but the saying, if the client says it, they're right. If you say it, you're wrong. It's like we both are getting to the same end goal. Like, we both need the same thing to happen, but who says it is right or wrong. And it's such a fascinating thing, especially when you're talking about geopolitics or even community. It's not even geopolitics or family. Family is like the smallest form of government that exists. And it's like, what type of family do you want to live in?
Yes, beautiful.
Do you want to live in a communist society where there's a dictator or whatever? Or do you want to live in more of a democratic family? And there's pros and cons to both. I think I'm probably, I definitely err on the side of authoritarian in my family with my children, but only to a point. Like, I ultimately want them to develop into a democracy in the family, but they have to understand. I think one of the issues with the democracy in our country, or any democracy across the country, is we're so far removed from the experience of not democracy. We don't know what it looks like to actually be controlled. And
yeah,
so,
well, you're not wrong. I mean, I think we have a perceived democracy. I don't think we live in a democracy. It's an oligarchy. It's ruled by, the ruling class is very much a thing. Lobbyists exist for a reason. We
Sure.
still have pharmaceutical drugs that can advertise for a reason. The point, though, that you're making, that you drew the correlation between the family and like what we're talking about, is very much true. Your family unit, especially when you become parents, you realize that you can't control your kids. You want to at the best of their, development, but you have to help them understand the reasons. And then ultimately it's going to be their choice. If they want to huff gasoline in their garage when they turn 18, let them. I can't stop you. Like, that was like my dad. He was very, and so going kind of back to my upbringing and how my family kind of was brought into that, is my mom really wanted, whereas I was her only child, she really wanted me to kind of do what she wanted. And because I was given so many gifts so early, I had a higher intelligence. I didn't really worry about grades in school. I was a 4.0 student. Like, school came easy to me. It wasn't anything that I was ever challenged with, ever. And so then my dad knew that and was like, oh, he just wants to blow, shit up out on the desert. And he wants to shoot things and be a man and like huck an axe and watch it stick into he just wants to be, I think, that guy. So, and I was, hey, can you stand over there? I'm still doing this. Can you stand? This is a problem.
it's all good. Let him in.
No, it's all right. He's
Matching
got
haircuts.
art classes. T-ball. There you go. So yeah, my upbringing was very much, it was wonderful. I can't say enough about the liberties that I had. I was a 12-year-old kid. We'd steal the farm diesel truck and we would get out of our beds at like 2:30 in the morning at 12. And my buddy Orrin, we didn't have licenses to drive, but he worked down on the ranch. He'd been driving for 3-4 years in that truck. So he'd come scoop me up and then we'd go down and shoot raccoons at 2:30 in the morning with spotlights. And like, that's what we did. And you think about, like, if I think about me trying to let my kid do that now, like at 12, just ripping a shotgun down on the river bottoms in the middle of the night. Like,
what about that though, Eric? What about that seems, I feel the same way about my childhood. Like, when I look back at my childhood, I'm like, that didn't actually happen. And there's no way that I had that much freedom But I mean, obviously it did. Like I lived through it, so I know it did happen. But looking at my children, so what is it about our society or our culture that like limits that? Is it that we chose to live into a more civil, I don't want to say civilized, but a more closer density with other people, and so it's not freedom?
Here's what it is, okay? And it goes back to my original comment, and this is the reason that it is. You can't when the social fabric of your society erodes to a point where you can't trust the law of averages, it starts to shrink your ability and how far you can let kids go. And so if you can't trust your neighbor with your youth, then you can't trust them outside of your site or outside of your property or outside of your, you know what I mean? Like before I would get chewed out by the neighbors, like, you
Sure.
know, or you'd ride your bike 2 miles across town and there was like a level of trust amongst people because culturally this is just how we behaved in this community. And so when you have communities like that, it allows people to kind of expand, or I think it allows the youth in particular to expand where they go. Now, you still had kids that were getting abducted and they're showing up on milk crates, and you still had, you know, unfortunate things that happen to kids in their youth, but it's not like it is now. And now, because we have all these compounding problems and these fetishes that are coming out psychologically and sexually with young men, and then it's compounding again, it's not going in the right direction. And so when you ask like my opinion as to why that happens, I just think it's because people have gotten to a point where they don't feel like they matter in their community. They don't feel like their contribution here and the type of family that we have is going to be the right family for the community, or a good family or an example for the community. And so everything we do builds this street, builds this city, builds the state. And if people would take, I think, more accountability into how they contributed to society at large, we could have our kids travel further than just
Do you
staying.
think that, I mean, do you think that if we all lived up in like the middle of the wood, like I say we all, obviously I don't want everybody up there, but if there was a way to create a community that was maybe 100 square miles of just like preserve, where only people who all agreed that they're okay with each other parenting their children or whatever, do you feel like that you could actually create this type of utopian society? Or is it that the internet, the technology, everything that is now so invaded into our society that you wouldn't be able to distance yourself far enough from the current to actually get to that level of trust again?
I think you're going to have real things that always show up in societies, like psychosis. You're going to have addiction. You're going to have things that will always show up. And the corporal punishment system for that, or crime and punishment systems, not even necessarily corporal, but any of the punishment systems that are around that, it kind of takes the sting out of doing it, you know? And again, like you asked the question, like, is it possible? I don't think it is. You know, there's a reason that and this is a sad truth, but it's the truth. There's a reason that kids get molested by their uncle. I mean, this is something a lot of people don't like to talk about in our culture, but like Tim Tebow's out on the fronting lines talking about like child abductions and all this stuff and how it's growing. It's going to keep growing because culturally we're not at a point to where we're surveying and we care about our neighbors. Like I don't even know half my neighbors on the street, and I try. Like we had a little barbecue. I want to let that guy know, like, hey, I'm a cool dude, but like he can't trust me. He doesn't know me,
Sure.
and he shouldn't. You know, and that's the sad part about where we're getting, especially post-COVID, is that now you're getting a lot more insulated. You're getting a lot more echo chambers. You're getting a lot more closed off. You're getting a lot less communal. And I think that's one of the, and I know this conversation is going a weird way. I didn't really mean
I
to go
didn't
this
know
way,
where it was going either,
but
but I love
I
it.
believe this is like one of the worst things that's happening in our society at large right now, is that you don't have institutions that we can trust. Nobody can trust the school. Nobody can trust the government. Nobody can trust the church. Nobody can trust these institutions at large. And so I think that's the reason it becomes more and more important, like you said, to define what your family does. You know, I really loved what you said at that mastermind. You were talking about like what we do as Knickerbockers, like what our brand is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at Knickerbockers, we stand for this. And it really got me doing the same with my kids. I'm like, hey, if we're Pipers, like, and I said this with our kids in the family, it's like, we defend each other and we help each other. Like we're a clan. You know, just like the Croods. You watch these shows. That's who we are, man. And then the other thing I said is like, if you're a piper, like what it means to be a piper is you add value in any room. So if you got to do the dishes, jump in. If you got to put up chairs, do it. If you need to help somebody, help them. But you just need to add value in every room. And I really liked kind of what your approach was on that. And it's got me thinking about it and utilizing it in my own life. So thank you.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. I'm grateful that, my parents did such a good job. When I think back to my childhood, I hated a lot of it because I was like in training ground. And now I appreciate all the hard things that I was put through. But one thing that my parents did religiously is they really did. They ran it maybe not like a government, but like a business for sure. Every Sunday. I can't think of any Sundays unless we were traveling. And even then, still sometimes we would do it. We did our family meetings, and our family meeting consisted of like 4 main parts. Like, I don't know what your business meetings look like with your top level people, but I'm going to tell you what I was
Love
trained to
it.
do from
Yeah,
a very young
train me,
age.
dude.
And you tell me how it applies. But at every meeting, we would start out with reading for us our family mission statement, which was the 13th article of faith of the LDS Church. Like, that was our family mission statement. Not the rest of them. The rest of them can go pound sand. But the 13th article of faith was all about what type of person are you becoming? Not necessarily what you believe as much as like what type of person are you going to become? So we start out there. Then we would start out with acknowledgments. And we didn't grow up in a family where social cues were supposed to happen. So like, if you wanted to be acknowledged for something, you'd raise your hand and say, I did this thing that's freaking awesome. And then everybody would clap and say, yeah, you did this thing that was awesome. So like, you were the one who needed to pull the weight. If you wanted to be acknowledged, you would vocalize, hey, we accomplished it, everybody celebrate me. And it was a very like proactive, it was okay to be celebrated and ask for that celebration rather than just like subconsciously hope that somebody noticed you did something. Like, so many people have their head up their own butt so much, myself included. I'm not removing myself from that statement. We're so self-absorbed that we don't really think about like how good somebody else is doing. And so like, if you want recognition, speak up and say, hey, I did this thing, right? And it's needed to do that, especially now with social media. You could be the coolest person ever, but if you aren't showing anybody that you're doing it, it's not really happening. I mean, it's
You're
happening.
calling me out, dude. Gee.
We'll get there. Anyways, so we started that. And then we did scheduling, and scheduling was, there was 11 of us and 2 parents. So we had these massive calendars, and every week we'd fill in like every little square inch of the crazy thing. And then we had agenda items, and agenda items was honestly, generally we would set this before. So probably before scheduling, we would set the agenda items like, hey, what do we need to talk about today? And everybody would say, hey, we need to talk about this. So you'd come to this meeting with your list of agenda items. And these meetings would take sometimes 4 or 5 hours because there's 11 people. All of us have very strong personalities. We were raised to kind of argue, and we would have like a drawn out discussion, we'll call it, a very lively discussion until everybody was heard, felt clear, or sometimes people would leave the room crying or whatever because their feelings were hurt. But it was like, we had this until there was finality, or we said, okay, well, we're going to table that for next week. And so everybody has a week to look forward to this, like another drawn out conversation when it's time for bed. But we did agenda items. And we would go through all of that, and then we do scheduling, and then we would do, at the end, there would be a list of tasks. And it's like, hey, who's going to do X, Y, Z? So we got all of our assignments, and we'd all walk out of this meeting every Sunday with a list of stuff that we had to do that week. And then we would recap, did this all get done? Okay, what's still on the list? What are we going to make new lists? Anyway, so it was very like the perfect way to run a business meeting.
Yeah.
And I grew up doing that. And it was just like the commitment by my parents not to give up and say, you know what, this is crazy. What are we doing this? 11 people we're trying to have this meeting with. It's not worth it. Just let them do whatever they want. They could have done that, but they didn't. And it's just like, it's amazing that they made that last my whole life. But
I want to implement that. That's good. I'm gonna implement that in our family. We had like a little meeting yesterday because my wife and I were getting after each other. Normally we don't really get like boisterous and mad and angry, but we were just mad at each other, and I was mad at her. She's mad at me. We've been married 18 years, and I was just like, this sucks. You're not hearing, you don't care about me. I was like, yeah, but you don't care about, and then we were just going back and forth. And I was like, you know what? We're mad because our children aren't following instructions clearly and quickly, and they're not listening. Well, what do we got to do? And then I was like, kids, get in here. Like, I know summer, but we're not going to just like become brain rot and like forget our math and not read. Our job is to prepare you for the world. It's going to come. It's going to be AI. I don't care as much about. Then my wife and I were having arguments about, handwriting and typewriting. I'm like, by the time he even hits high school, it'll be obsolete. You're going to be talking to a computer. It's going to be just freaking voice taking everything that you have for ideas. It's going to be synthesizing it. And right now it's happening in college where 99% of what students are submitting is AI, 99% of what's grading it is AI. And now there's like this mess in academia because people don't have their own logic. And so what that exercise your family did was an exercise in logic. And I think what you're saying is right. Yeah, it's a good way to run a business. It's a better way to build like a path forward. You have to make all the time in your brain, you're making logical what if arguments. This is actually like a section of thing that I'm writing on right now. But you make these what if all the time. Well, what if this? What if that? And the best people in business, like there's like, oh, they don't overthink it. They just go and they do. Not entirely. Some people can think in 4D chess and think, well, if this, then that, then this, then that, then this, then that. And they can do logical extensions of arguments of things that would happen in their head. And then they can kind of reduce the amount of like heartburn or stress that they might feel. And when you look at that exercise for your family, I bet all of you hold each other accountable when it comes to your logical arguments. You probably can look at somebody and be like, okay, that's a weak argument you're making. You're just saying that.
To the annoyance of everybody in our lives, because they're like, why my wife, when we got married, I can't even argue with you because you're always going to be right. I'm like, I'm not going to be right. That was one of the pre-qualifying questions when I was marrying somebody or looking for a spouse. She's like, well, what are you looking for? I'm like, well, one thing I'm looking for is somebody who can just put up with me because like I'm a mess. I've got lots of crap in my life. I'm not perfect. I've made lots of stupid mistakes. I've developed dumb habits that will impact our relationship. There's no doubt. And so like, I'm looking for somebody who's going to put up with me. But secondly, like I make a profession, we did both do door to door, or I did. I make a profession of sounding certain. Like I'm not giving up sounding certain when I speak. Like that's not happening. Also, I know that like 95% of what I say, I'm willing to change at a moment's notice because like, I know I'm not right. I'm just like voicing my thought, hoping that somebody pushes back. But if you're just going to let me roll over you whenever I say something because I sound certain, so you're just going to accept it as truth. That's not going to work for me because then I don't.
So I'm the same.
Because then I don't get to grow, and I want to grow.
Funny. I challenged my ideas. This is the reason I wanted to go get my PhD and didn't. So we'll continue down the path now. This is a good, I think, segue to bring us back in. So I was the state debate champion, feature debate champion in Student Congress in 2002. Utah State champ, no big deal. Won nothing. I think it was like a dinky little medal. They didn't even celebrate me at school. It was like, oh, the boys baseball team took second in regions. Let's get them up on stage with trophies. And then I won speech and debates. They didn't care. So, but anyways, it was like very important to me. And every time that somebody proposed a preposterous bill, like I had one even before it happened where we proposed that Pluto be declassified as a planet. We called it Purple Rain. It was one of the best bills we proposed. I had another one that basically was to target, Mormon families where it was like, hey, you shouldn't be allowed to have kids unless you hit a certain threshold of income. And then that unlocks your ability to have more children because you're depriving those kids of resources just at the expense of trying to get tagged. Like it was the craziest bill, but it was meant to incite a riot. Everything I ever wrote legislation on was meant to just get people upset. And then everybody would want to argue against it. And only a handful of people would ever get speech time to argue for it. And so the best legislation and the best thing was when you could play devil's advocate. And so in debate, what I would do is I do this now, and it's proven to be such a successful tool in my life where I will be hearing all of the reasons why something or someone should be gone. And then I will instantly, and I probably am agreeing with that. They probably should be gone, but I will always look at it and be like, well, what about this? What does that mean about us? How about our leadership? Like, what are we doing to fail this person? How does that relate? Like, and then you start playing devil's advocate in the what ifs and you start to strategize. So everything that you're talking about, I think we want to maybe make this a theme, is that if you don't challenge your ideas and if you don't argue them with like-minded peers, then you don't improve them. And your ideas live in your head and it becomes ancestral and it becomes this feedback loop that is not creative. It's not new. There's no nuance and there's no growth. It becomes regressive and stale. And I know so many people in my life that they were once so smart and then they closed their mind. It's like I heard one of my coworkers or a guy that I work with say this the other day. He said, one of the sad things about anybody who works in marketing is everything they ever learned, they learned in college. And I find it so funny because a lot of the people with marketing degrees, they know everything about marketing. Well, we got a market like this. It's like, well, no, the world's moved on. Like,
Yeah.
there's crazy ways to market now that you didn't learn in college. Like, there's new stuff happening all the time that you're not even considering. And so, I, in the spirit of that and arguing, I went to college. And so I got my undergrad from BYU, Idaho, met my wife there. Like I said, we've been married 18 years. And then after that, I wanted to go get my PhD. I had a real passion in sociology. I wanted to study people. I wanted to understand them at scale. I did not want to help them. Piss on social work. If somebody wants to go be a social worker and watch somebody like, be horrible and treat their lives like with wanton ruin, like, I don't want anything to do with it. I don't need a case. Let those people go die in a ditch. Like, that's how I always felt. At a young age, I was like, I don't want to help people. I just want to study them. And then, even after when I was helping people on my mission, to kick drugs, I was like, no, I saw it. They're going to just keep doing crack. You can't get them to stop. So I got to that point where I just wanted to understand, why does somebody commit suicide? Why do groups of people commit suicide? What's the point behind like social media now? Like, that was in its infancy when I was doing my undergrad. And I remember, I think I was like the fourth person to join the school's Facebook group, because originally Facebook started at colleges. And my roommate was the student body president. He was like the first person to start it. And I was the fourth person to join Facebook at BYU, Idaho. Hilarious. But I remember like seeing it, and it was like the dumbest stuff that you would post on there. It was kind of like this like message board. It was a mess. This was like, what was this? This would have been 2005. So it was just a mess. Graduated early, and then I went on to do some work, continuing in the door-to-door space, knocking, doing all that. And then I went on later to NAU, got an assistantship, and went down there to get my master's degree. So my master's, that was in sociology as well. Hey, buddy, I'm doing this right now, okay? This is not a point to do this, okay? Thank you. I mean it. Later, we'll be going to baseball in a second, okay? Okay, got a 6-year-old. Sorry about that. So for me, like, I got to the 2-yard line of wanting to pursue a PhD and bailed. And it was heartbreaking for my wife. My wife was supportive. We didn't have kids at the time. She was just like, you really are going to go all the way through this. You're going to drag yourself through an undergrad degree. You're going to drag yourself through this master's degree. And then you're going to say you never want anything to do with this again. I said, yeah, I don't. This was in 2013. I was like, I don't believe that academia stands a chance. Like, it's going to be, you're going to have Salem witch trials in academia, because I saw it in sociology back then. I was just like, oh, dude, these people have lost their damn mind. Like, you can't have an argument with somebody and respect them. You can't have varying or differing opinions and respect each other. There's no, like you were saying, there's no way to argue your ideas with someone and then have respect out of it. That argument became name calling, or it became a us versus them group mind share. And then you started to get this fervor around, like, it almost was like a judge or a mark on your intelligence. And I remember when I would tell people, I was just like, well, yeah, I'm trying to be like Jesus, and they'd laugh like, oh, really? You believe in all that? And I was like, well, tell me what to believe in. And they'd be like, well, what do you mean? Blah, blah, blah. And they'd start to talk esoteric and ethereal. I'm like, bro, you've been on this rock for 30 years. You're going to tell me that's not a good example? Like, I disregard your opinion, and then they would be like, well, you know how much blood has been shed for the Crusades and Christians alike? I was like, I'm not talking about everything that came around it. I'm not talking about the institutions. I'm talking about the man, the myth, the legend, Christ. Right. Like, what are we talking about? So then I would I'm like, argue with me about that. And where I come at on the metaphysical side is very much just my own experiences. Like, I've had personal experiences in my life that people can't shake me from. They go, you're LDS, you're Mormon. I'm like, bro, I watched my half brother fall face first in the fire because he was too, drunk. It's like, you're going to tell me right now that, like, it's not a good way to live my life. And if something comes along, maybe it's Buddhism or Hinduism, I've studied them. Like, you're going to tell me that if that kicks me off my path, I would take it. Like, get out of here. Of course I would. But I'm to the point now, and that's the reason I left my PhD. And it broke my heart, because it was a goal of mine to become a professor and help shape future minds to think logically. Just everything we're talking about. I wanted them to fight ideas with their cohort, fight the ideas of their parents and their upbringing, rage against the machine. I wanted them to question their ideals. And you can't do that now in academia. It is a point where you toe the line, or you fall in line or you are cast out. And it's a huge problem. That's the reason people don't trust it as an institution, and we can't have like real talks about our schooling. Anyways, so that's what got me back into door to door. So the sociological side, then the door to door side. And I really just wanted to kind of like understand people, and the social psych element, which is the psychology piece. I'm not as good at, but it's my favorite piece. So it's when you combine the sociological constructs that they're operating in, and then you mix that with the individual psychology of the person. And when you really start to understand how those two halves make a whole, you really can start to understand how people think. And so for me, I started to dig into that, research that, understand it, and it became a passion that transferred into my business life and door to door.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you that because I have this perspective. I'm going to explain my perspective after I ask you this question. You answer it. Because again, we don't know each other. I mean, we kind of met each other, but like we don't know how each other thinks. And that's what I love about these conversations. It's like to test as a sounding board. Hey, I'm going to test my theories against somebody that I think thinks like me and see, hey, am I on base, off base? Because I've had so many things where like I came up with that. And then you see Ed Mylett saying it from stage. You see these people, I'm like, okay, I guess God came up with it. And he bestowed it to the persons who are willing to listen. Because like, I never read that. I came up with that myself. It's in my journal 10 years ago. And then somebody else is saying it. I'm like, I didn't say that to him. How does he know what I was thinking? So what business would you say you're in?
This has changed. So the business I'm in, so this relates to my purpose statement.
Sure.
I recently just went to a leadership conference. So let's take this. They one of the exercises they had you really hone in on what your purpose statement is in life. And I'm 41. It's taken me this long to curate it to the point where I stand on it. So my purpose is to help others uncover and unlock their fullest potential by creating meaningful opportunities. And so as a business owner, my role is not to do anything but that. I can sit there and say, I want to sell. No, I got to create opportunities. Oh, I want to manage. No, that helps, but I want to create an opportunity for people to flourish. I want to create an opportunity of people to have a good product to sell in a market. I want to create an opportunity where I host like certain events or meetings or things. And so everything that I'm doing now it's in an effort to, because I was so mediocre for so long, and that's my handle on Instagram, mediocre salesman. But because I was so mediocre for so long, it's now my mission statement to help others unlock their full potential, whatever that is. Some people are given with gifts. Some people are just dumb out the box. There's just no way around it. They just are. Their level of intelligence is diminished, but they can gain and they can grind and they can still make a ton in life. It's create the meaningful opportunities for people, whatever that is.
I love that.
So I'm in the business of creating opportunities to help others unlock their full potential. That's my business.
Yeah. So I love that. Because this is my belief, and it's so funny that I don't know when you learned this. I bet you learned it way before this, but just because you've been in sales long enough. But in my life, there's 3 phases. I think I don't know where I learned this, but it makes sense in McDonald's. It makes a lot of sense if you think about it that way. But there's your business that you're in, then there's the widget that you are. It's the pathway, and then there's what you're selling. And if I ask you what you sell, what do you sell?
Oh, we just sell door-to-door products.
Okay,
it's gonna be like fiber optic internet's one we're doing right now.
So I would say, Eric, you don't sell fiber optic. You don't sell fiber optic to the people who buy fiber optics, and you don't sell fiber optics to the salespeople that you're mentoring, because your business is mentoring and creating opportunities for people to become their full potential.
Mm-hmm.
That's the business you're in. So the widget is the pathway to do that. So your widget
door-to-door marketing
is door-to-door marketing.
Yep.
What you're selling, you have 2 clients. You have the client who's receiving the benefit of the widget, which is they get less frustration, better communication with their spouses and their children, better environment in the home. That's what you're selling. You're selling a feeling. And what are you selling to the
rep?
Transactor of the widget is you're selling their full potential. You're selling them back their full potential. So you're in the business of full potential. The widget is the business.
Door-to-door marketing.
Thing. So like, why is that important? Because when it comes down to business and understanding, like, okay, Eric, how did you get here? You are a trapper. And you like the idea of setting a long scent, a short scent, a visual cue, like all of this. Well, those early things is what makes you so good at helping create an experience to unlock somebody's full potential. You had to create the experience to get that dog, coyote, whatever the animal they are, to step in like a 6-inch circle. I mean, think of that. The entire woods, you have everywhere out there, and you got to get this animal that you have zero control over and would run from you if they saw you, unless you're laying down. Maybe they run towards you.
Plankton.
But you got to get them to step in a 6-inch circle. Like, you have to create and curate this experience, this opportunity for somebody to hit it right on the head.
Yeah.
And that identity or that personality, those things that fixate in your mind, has been a guiding light throughout your life.
It's so interesting. You know, I've always kind of looked at myself as it related to myself, but I think you're right. I think you're hitting the nail on the head. Like, we are a makeup of our past, but we also are constantly redefining our future. And lately in my life, man, I've been very, very purposeful. Hey, Ryan, can you take that in the other room, bud? Okay, we got a little robot that we fixed. It looks like, I don't know if you've ever seen a show called Short Circuit. It's old, 80s. The guy made a little robot. It's kind of like the original Wall-E. Like, when I saw Wall-E, I was like, this is a knockoff of Short Circuit. There's 2 of them. I think they're in the 80s. Banger films, dude. If you want to watch them Short Circuit with the kids. It's funny. But I really think that the way that I'm defining my future is now, like when you talk about our legacy or what we want to do, you help define your purpose statement, your business and your widget and all that when you know where you're going. And it's hard, I think, if you don't, right? Because, and let me say this, and I think this is the most important thing for people, whoever listens to this, even ourselves, to remember, is that if you don't have that thing that's going to just scare you, and that the thing that's like your North Star, that's going to guide you and that's going to take you through all the bullshit and the turmoil and the hard times, then you do not have a good enough vision for your life. And, you know, I feel like right now, a lot of people are complacent because they're kind of just going through this river and they're floating and they're alive and they're getting pushed on and bounced into people. And it's like they're at this big, you know, what is it? It's not even a wave pool. What is it? The little walk pools that they do?
The lazy river is what it's called.
Yeah, lazy river. You're on a lazy river with no real drive. And so you have this lazy river that people just have no purpose. And I see that so much right now. So my purpose statement, right, I told you, is that because the sociological side, I think in the next 5 to 10 years, this iPad generation, these kids that were post-COVID, these kids that are going to be 16 in 10 years, I think we're going to see some societal breakdowns that have really ruined these children. And I think we're not going to have answers. And I think they're going to try to turn to institutions, and their families have failed them because parents are stuck on their phones. You know, institutions have failed them because they can't hands off at school. We can't correct anyone. Their neighborhoods have failed them because everyone's kind of in the same boat from an example standpoint. And I do believe that I have a larger purpose, and it's to help young men with the wealth that our business is generating. I don't think it has anything to do with me. It just has to do with my ability to hear that needs to happen. And what you said is the truth. Like, I you know, okay, we have these ideas, but who's going to go make that idea a reality? And for me, I believe that there is a thing or a purpose or a calling that is really wanting me to create or curate or have people like you and people in my network that I'm expanding, and people that I do business with, and door-to-door guys, and people that have all the confidence in the world to come back and maybe contribute and volunteer some time and start to help these young men in either a summer camp or a retreat or a breakaway, and it is going to be geared towards young men, because there's something happening to our young boys where they don't get to go trap, or they don't get to go hunt coyotes, or they don't get to, you know, work on a farm or a ranch, or they don't get to like contribute in certain ways. And then they feel like because they obtain accomplishments on a video game that they're somehow accomplished. And it's a fool's gold that we're giving these youth. You know, I would much rather have a kid go out, plant that little seed. Remember, you do that exercise in school where you plant a seed and then it grows, and you take a little thing home and you're like, Mom, I got this plant. I would much rather see that and then eat a tomato off of a plant that a kid made and feel that than some unlocked achievement on a video game. And I love video games. I'm pro. I'm really good. I've been playing them since they came out. And I still like to dabble occasionally. My eyesight's shit now, so I don't play as well. But I feel like that's my larger purpose. And when you talk about your legacy, that's the legacy. You know,
Yeah.
like the legacy is this thing, this community. We're going to use the vehicle. Yeah. We're going to do door-to-door marketing. Yeah. We're going to make a good gob of money. Cool. But we're going to be good stewards of that so that we can create this awesome place and a safe haven for our youth.
Because when we met, it's been like what, 2 months, maybe. And we had the conversation because you're in the middle. I'm not saying that you've fully accepted the mantle yet. Maybe you're a lot closer to accepting the mantle. When we met, though, you were still like, I don't want this mantle. I hate that this mantle is calling my name, but I can't deny myself. But also, I feel like accepting this is disregarding what I want in life. And so, how do I accept this calling? I have to change what I want, and that's frustrating because I thought I had what I wanted. Energy. I'm not saying those are your exact words, but that was kind of the energy. This call today is for me at least, just on the receiving end, it feels like you have made a lot of progress in accepting that mantle and shifting your purpose. I want to hear from your perspective though. Like, do you feel that way or is that just my perspective? I know you probably still.
I mean, when you think back to like stories in the Bible and you got Paul and Saul and that whole thing where he's out there persecuting the church and then he's got to turn around. It's like, no, don't do that anymore. It's like, oh, really? I gotta do this? It's like, yeah, dude, you gotta do that. And I think there's times in people's lives, like Lord of the Rings is one of my favorite ones, when everyone's squabbling about what needs to be done with this just elephant in the room. And Frodo stands up and he's like, I'll do it. He just knows none of them can do it. I'm the ring bearer. And I think there's a time, and we don't know his thoughts. We don't know his psychology. We don't know the motivation there. All we know is that he was the person that felt that, and he stood up and said, I'm going to do it. Why? I don't know. And when you get a calling, Sam Taggart's a great example of this. He sat on a rock and meditated for like a day. I think it was like 12 hours straight. And he envisioned this thing where he was going to make a door-to-door con, and he was going to make an expo, and he was going to create this thing. And like you can try to deny it, but it's not deniable at this point. I mean, I think it's going on its 9th year, almost 10 in, and like it just keeps growing every year, and more vendors show up, and it's just become this oasis, and it outsprang from this one little idea, and now all of a sudden it's grown into this like community. And that's what I do believe is the thing that I'm striving for. Now, if that changes, it happens. Like you could be going in this direction and you could amass all these contacts in these things, and then boom, inserts this new, you get sideswiped by this whole different mission. That's okay. Like I'm okay to that. I'm open to that. But the legacy and the mission and the play that I have now is there. Like it's taken me so long, but that's like what I'm going to do. Like I will do it. I don't have an ounce of doubt. And the money thing is just coming. It's a result of my efforts to make this a reality. I will make it. Like Walt Disney made an amusement park. I will make this. There's no doubt. So yeah, the day-to-day, the vehicle, the thing, that's like, oh yeah, I'm just like anybody else. Yeah, I struggle. Oh, I got a family. Like, got to make money. Oh, how does that work? But I'm going to continue to network. I'm going to continue to grow. I'm going to continue to invest in myself. I'm going to continue to make myself worthy of what this thing is going to become.
Yeah, I love that. It's so cool to see. I like seeing people's progress. So my mission statement, I don't really call it that. It's my I guess you call it my purpose, but I believe to my core that we're all creators of our minds, our spirits, our bodies, our paradigms, and our habits. And I believe that my purpose is to demonstrate and help people create those things in an energy of pure light and joy and love, which is everybody has different energies that they want to operate at. Some people operate out of motivation, and I believe that they're called to operate out of motivation at a time in their life. And so my wife and I, sometimes she'll see some of these influencers that are operating in motivation, fear-based, meaning whatever, to really get somebody going. And it's so wrong that people would do that. It's like, it's not wrong. We need motivators. We need people in the world to do that. That's a specific role. My role is not that. I will never align myself with somebody who is in motivational experiences, because that's not what I align with. I align with the love and attraction rather than the fear and motivation. That doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that we have different purposes. So for me, I believe my purpose is to help somebody master the art of their creation, or become the full potential of themselves in an energy of light and love, pure light and love, which is, that's for me. But it's fascinating that that's the business that I'm in. right? Just like we're both in the same business at the end of the day. We're both in the business of developing people and helping people have the opportunity to develop. You chose different widgets to do that. And you could choose water sales, you could choose cleaning carpet, you could choose mowing lawns, you could choose painting, whatever it is, do it the absolute best that you can. Become a magician, exponentially thinking person at your craft, whatever it is. You can make money literally doing anything in the world these days. Just do it the best that you can. And if you can do that and excel, then ultimately it doesn't matter what widget you choose, but the identity of, are you becoming the best that you can? Are you satisfied with how you're at? Are you complacent? Or are you like, you know what? I got here. I'm still breathing. I wonder how much better I can get. And that identity is something that I hope more boys get. I say boys, I hope everybody gets it. I grew up in Boy Scouts. I was raised doing Boy Scouts. And there was crap when I was going through Boy Scouts. A lot more crap came out, which kind of disbanded it. And now it's some weird form of whatever that I don't really want to be associated with. However, like the old school core principles, Baden-Powell, and like leave no trace behind, be prepared, like be a positive contributor to society, go and learn how the world, not how society works, go learn how the world works, go learn how nature works, go learn how societies came to be. Like that stuff is still so impactful. I reached out to somebody yesterday who is like a big leader in the Boy Scouts. Like, can I get some of these old manuals so I can like start taking my own boys through them? Like, I can't take the whole world through them. I'm not going to go do that right now, but like, I want to take my boys through these because they were impactful for me. They changed my life.
Same. Eagle Scout, baby. Let's go. But I agree. There was some, I remember my hardest merit badge was the dumbest merit badge I got. It was canoeing. It was so gosh dang hard. They took us out. It was freaking cold as hell. We were in the reservoir. And then we had to jump out of it, sink it. It kind of floated. And then as you're treading water, you couldn't have a life jacket on. Like our instructors were ball busters, but you had to like lift it over your head, quickly turn it with a partner. And then you had to get back in the canoe. And it was, I mean, we're like dying. I had no fat on my bones at the time. I was like just a twig, and we're treading water it was just a brutal thing. But I remember one of the scouts caught like a 4-pound trout just on a spinner lure. Another one like ate all these hot dogs, and it was a blast. And I was like exhausted and tired. And I draw from the well of that all the time. All these old experiences, you do it. And I think what happens in business is because you've had all these experiences, you increase your ability and you expand your capacity to just deal with bullshit. And when you get into real top tier business, the only thing you deal with all day long is problems. You don't deal with anything other than problems. That's it. All you get across your desk is new issue, new problem that needs being solved, new problem with this, and like you have an increased capacity so you can do it, you know?
Yeah.
And you look at the top tier influencers, I think, or impactor entrepreneurs, you know, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, say what you want about it, but they've been dealing with this stuff for so long in their life, like it doesn't phase them. They just have this increased ability to deal with it.
Right. Well, hey, we're on time. I'm just curious, I know you're writing a book. Do you know when your book is getting published yet?
Dude, you're going to hold me accountable, right? Okay, thanks, bro. I am writing it. It's going to be called How to Be a Mediocre Salesman. And it's more or less an antithesis of what not to do for 20 years so that you can start out, get on the right track. And it's really good in life. Like it's going to be just mostly like experiences that I had, why it set me back, but what I learned from it and how that maybe applies to them. And then I've got a bunch of chapters I'm working on. It's probably not going to be ready for like, I'd say 6 months to a year, because every time I go back to it, I'm adding like a new chapter. I'm like, oh, that should be in here. Like I just added one about how to bend and not break with your partner, which is going to talk about like, if you really want to be successful in sales and you do happen to have a partner that can either be business or in your relationship of the love of your life, it can ruin you. And there's ways that you need to bend with it, like the willow, instead of breaking. And that's becoming its own chapter that I'm like adding to that I didn't anticipate.
I love it.
So
I'm excited to read that chapter. When will you have the pre-sale website up?
Dude, you're crazy, man. You're holding me accountable. This is the thing that I'm bad at that I'm getting better at. So I don't market at all. I don't put myself out there. I just slowly go about doing stuff. Like I just helped Sam Taggart redo all the Fiber University stuff. So on his, I'm the fiber expert since I've been doing it for so long. And now I have kind of a call to be more active on social media. So I'll be doing that on Instagram, probably mediocre salesman, probably making some jokes and banking off, but more or less just like talking about how to be mediocre and like what it's like. Cause I get so tired of when I get on and these influencers like are crushing it and they're always constantly working out and they're always buff and they're just killing it. I'm like, bro, you neglect your kids. Like, I don't even want to hear about like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to hear about that. Like, show me that and all the other stuff you're balancing and juggling. And so that's probably what my social media is going to be. So yes, pre-sale, I'll create a thing. I'll put it up. I don't even know what that looks like or how it looks. So I might need some assistance there, but then I will be adding it. You know, one of my favorite chapters that I'm writing is called Entertainment's Lull in the Content Pyramid. And I'm basically just talking about how entertainment for entertainment's sake is just lulling us into this inactivity, and that there's a content pyramid of things that you should probably adhere to, just kind of like how you would with the food pyramid. And like, there's really, really good content online. Like I told my kids, I was like, you want to watch the Outdoor Boys? Go for it. Some of their stuff I know is whimsical. Some of their stuff is like a dude bushwhacking in the Arctic North. There's some value to you watching that. You want to watch mindless, like Minecraft videos where some dude's eating his boogers? Like, I can't support it, you know? And so there, I think that's what's going on with the content that we consume, and we're not actively thinking about it. And so I'm creating this content pyramid, which is more or less like a guide of how you should probably consume content for a healthy, balanced, you know, lifestyle. So stuff like that. That's like one of the chapters I'm really liking.
Awesome. I love it. Well, I'm excited for the book. I'm excited to read it because I think it's going to benefit me. I think that every time I'm able to level up when I read books, I'll be honest, like when I read books, there's too much in a book generally. I really only need like 2 or 3 chapters because that's about all I can apply at any given moment. And so maybe you just release like 2 or 3 chapters at a time and then sell like a compilation book at the end.
I'm only going to do one book in my life. I don't think like
whatever, Eric. That's what every
dude. I don't have that much value
author says.
Yeah, but I'm not that pretentious, dude. I'm not that cool of a dude. I'm just one in how many billion. It's fine.
I will allow that to be your calling right now. I highly doubt in 10 years from now that'll be the case, but that's okay.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, you remember right. Maybe I write an audible.
Here's the thing. How much of John C. Maxwell have you read?
I don't read a lot.
Listen to his books. Do you listen to his books on
Yeah,
Audible?
I have. I do a lot of audiobooks. I do a ton.
So this is not a dig at John C. Maxwell at all. So nobody who hears this statement, don't listen to it that way. But like, if you've read one John C. Maxwell book, you pretty much read them all. And the benefit to that is he finds a new way to describe, like he takes the same post, like it's a circular post, and he describes it from every different angle. It's the same post he's talking about, but he's talking about it from 360 degrees. So like the same book he repurposes, and it's like how to develop the leader within you, how to develop the leaders around you, how to develop the leaders above you, beneath you. And it's all the same principles, but like what's the little different in context of how to explain the same situation? Anyways, you don't want to do this, but you're
right. I get what you're saying. I get what you're driving at. The problem is I feel like too many people sniff their own farts and they think that they're like, they need to be the type of people that are like influencing. And really, I want just this writing to be impactful and then just be done. I don't want it to be a thing where people are like monetizing it and making money off of it. I just wanted to help a couple people. I want you to learn from 20 years of screwing up. And like, cool, this is great. This is awesome stuff. I want that to be the point. I don't want to become an author. Like, that's not my goal, is to start monetizing this.
That's why it's going to be a great book.
A lot of those guys have differing endeavors, like what they're wanting to accomplish. I don't want that. Like,
I know you don't.
Even the thing that I have a little hidden gem I can't share. Even like the biography pick is a joke. Like I won't even put my face in the book. Like I already have a thing that's a joke about it, which is going to crush. I love it. But I'm not even putting my face in the book because some of these people are just so gosh dang into themselves all the time, bro. Even how they influence. Like, I'm a new course and my new, I got a beef jerky that's out.
Dude, Eric, you realize you're 40 years old or 41 or however old you say you
41.
are. You're so freaking young. You think over the next 40 years, you're not going to have another book to talk about another 20 years of podcast?
Okay, Sam, stop. You're going to tell me right now I'm going to launch a beef jerky or a candy and then I'm going to have a series of books? Like, get out of here, bro. Oh, my gosh.
I'm excited. I'm excited for our friendship. I'm excited for everything. This has been absolutely a ton of fun. We could have another one of these conversations, go a completely different direction.
I want to have another one, but I want to get to know you better. So
Okay,
I
well,
came in here and talked about myself. I want to hear, like I talk, I do that a lot for a
That's
living.
good. That's good.
Run it back whenever you need me to. And then let's, when you're ready, let me know and I'll start asking questions about you and we'll get into some stuff.
We can get it scheduled. This summer is a great time for me. I'm just like, I'm up in Utah, chilling, working a little bit, but spending a lot of time with the family. So this summer is a good time to do it. I'll send you the link.
You tell me when, dude. I will. I'll have a bunch of good questions. We'll flip the script on Oprah herself. Himself, Sam Knickerbocker, dude. You're a stud. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, I could be a black woman if I wanted to be. Right?
I define that. Yeah, don't mispigment me. I got dark skin. What are you talking about?
That's so funny. We'll catch you guys next time on the Fuel Your Legacy show. Have a great day and we'll talk soon. Bye.
Call now, don't hesitate. 385-323-2493. Change your fate. A legacy in motion, watch you grow.